Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we are tackling a massive challenge. And honestly, it's the kind of thing that literally keeps executives up at night. We're looking at why mastering the human element of change management is arguably the absolute most critical skill for modern leaders. Because here's the thing. When we talk about rolling out new processes, especially cutting-edge tech, it is never just about the code or the software. It is always, always about the people. So let's explore exactly how we can use proven frameworks to navigate the messy, complex world of organizational transformation together. Now, you might be wondering about the ultimate paradox in modern business. Why do technically perfect technology deployments so often crash, burn, and face intense resistance from the exact people they're supposed to help? I mean, you can have the most advanced, highly optimized AI system on the entire market, but if you don't manage the psychological friction of the people who actually have to use it, your project is completely doomed. The failure rarely lies in the tech. It lies in human nature. And let's be real, our deep, abiding love for familiar, clunky spreadsheets. And that brings us to the main villain of our story today, the status quo. By definition, this is the existing baseline of operational routines, social interactions, and those legacy habits that organizations just naturally defend. Humans are literally wired to seek stability. We instinctively protect our comfortable routines. So even if a new computer-based ordering system is objectively better, an organization is going to view that shift as a systemic threat, and they will fight the disruption tooth and nail unless it's proactively and carefully managed. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our macro to micro journey for today. 1. The psychology of resistance. 2. Macro transformation with Lewin and Cotter. 3. Micro transformation using the AIDCAR model. 4. Overcoming AI friction points. And finally, 5. Beating elastic band syndrome. Section 1. The psychology of resistance. Understanding the fundamental human friction against change. Let's start by acknowledging the really frustrating reality leaders face when initiating a new project. You introduce a tool to make everyone's life easier, right? But instead of cheers, you get major pushback. Well, the behavioral friction we see in organizations typically stems from 4 core drivers. First up is the fear of job disruption. Employees often look at process changes, especially automation, as a direct threat to their livelihood. Second is a mistrust of automated decisions. When a black box algorithm starts calling the shots, people naturally doubt its transparency. Third, we've got technological overwhelm. Just dumping complex software on people causes immediate cognitive overload. And fourth, like we just talked about, is that innate preference for the status quo. If leadership just ignores these anxieties, they don't magically vanish. They fester. They turn into rumors, passive resistance, and eventually a total inability for the company to compete. Moving on to Section 2, Macro Transformation, Lewin and Cotter, Executive Strategies for Systemic Shifts. We're going to zoom out to the executive level now and see how top-down organizational strategies can break the ice and build some real momentum. First up is Kurt Lewin's 3 Phase model. It's incredibly elegant and honestly super intuitive. Step 1 is unfreeze. You have to prepare the organization by proving that the status quo is just no longer viable, maybe by showing dropped efficiencies or what your competitors are doing. It's a very visceral metaphor. You're effectively wiping the slate clean before trying to build something new. Step 2 is change. This is where you introduce the new methods, deploy rigorous training, gather constant feedback, and iterate. Finally, Step 3 is freeze, or refreeze. You lock those new processes into place with strict controls, making sure people don't just drift back to their old ways. Alongside Lewin, we have John P. Cotter's 8-step process, which is basically an executive-level roadmap designed to smash through deep-seated inertia. It starts with establishing a real sense of urgency. Then you create a guiding coalition of powerful, respected stakeholders so the initiative has absolute credibility. You develop a clear vision, and crucially, you communicate that vision constantly. If leadership goes quiet, employees are just going to fill that silence with negative rumors. Next, you empower broad-based action. By actively listening to your team, generate short-term wins, use those wins to consolidate gains, and finally, anchor the new approaches deep into the corporate culture. To put that into perspective, let's look at this brilliant commercial oil pump anecdote from our source material that illustrates Cotter's idea of generating short-term wins to produce more change. It says, if a project successfully shortens the repair cycle for commercial oil pumps from 1 week down to 3 days, the team should leverage that win to figure out how to reduce the cycle to a single day. Generating these short-term wins builds so much enthusiasm. By celebrating that initial jump to 3 days, the team creates a huge strategic springboard of motivation to push for that ultimate single-day goal. All right, Section 3, Micro-Transformation, 80KR Model. Shifting focus to individual adoption. Because here's the hard truth. Sweeping executive mandates mean absolutely nothing if the individual employee sitting at their desk is terrified of losing their job. The 80KR model, created by Jeffrey Hyatt, focuses heavily on the psychological milestones that an individual person has to pass to actually adopt change. It's an acronym. A is for awareness, knowing the change is coming and exactly why. D is for desire, having a personal willingness to actually participate. K is for knowledge, understanding how their specific daily workflow is going to alter. A is for ability, getting the training and coaching to turn that conceptual knowledge into real hands-on competence. And finally, R for reinforcement, recognizing success to ensure the new habit actually sticks for good. Now, you might be thinking these frameworks are competing with each other, but they totally aren't. This is a real aha moment. Kotter and AIDCAR are actually complementary sides of the exact same operational coin. Kotter provides the management lens, focusing on the environment, building urgency, shaping the big picture strategy. AIDCAR provides the individual lens, making sure the actual people operating within that strategy have the personal desire and technical capability to pull it off. For example, Kotter's mandate to communicate the vision maps perfectly to AIDCAR's requirement for individual awareness. See how they lock together? Section 4, Overcoming AI Friction Points, Applying Frameworks to the Modern Challenge of Artificial Intelligence. Now let's bring this all into the present day and tackle the absolute most daunting change management challenge out there right now, AI. When you're deploying AI, you're going to hit very specific, highly practical friction points. Dealing with algorithmic mistrust because your team doesn't trust black box decisions? Well, your intervention relies on AIDCAR's awareness and knowledge. You need to provide clear explanations and transparent metrics. What if you're facing displacement anxiety, where workers are terrified automation will eliminate their roles? You lean on Kotter's empowerment and AIDCAR's desire by shifting their roles to actually supervising the AI. And if you're dealing with skill gap anxiety from tech overwhelm, you jump right into Lewin's change phase and AIDCAR's ability by providing multi-stage, hands-on coaching. Because AI brings so much uncertainty, organizations have to absolutely avoid these massive, sudden, enterprise-wide software rollouts. You have to implement AI with an agile approach. This means iterative deployment, rolling out tools in small, manageable, little increments. It requires continuous feedback loops, constantly gathering user input to make rapid adjustments. And you need to showcase visible progress. Leverage those early, small-scale successes to prove the tangible benefits and build a real desire for wider adoption across the whole company. Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Beating Elastic Band Syndrome, Sustaining the Transformation Long-Term. Everything we've discussed so far handles the rollout, but what happens when management declares victory and looks away? That is exactly when you encounter elastic band syndrome. This is literally the ultimate threat to operational excellence. It's this systemic tendency for an organization to naturally snap back to its old, familiar ways of working the exact second the initial pressure from leadership is removed. It's like a rubber band stretched tight. The moment you let go, snap. Let's look at how this operational decay actually happens, because it unfolds in highly predictable phases. In phase 1, we have initial compliance. The shiny new system is deployed, the training is fresh in everyone's minds, and team members start using it under direct supervision. Everything seems perfectly fine. The metrics are looking great. But then we hit phase 2, which is a highly dangerous turning point. Management relaxes. Leadership sees all this initial compliance, declares the transformation a massive success, and shifts their focus onto the next big shiny initiative. The pressure is completely removed, which inevitably leads straight to phase 3, systemic snapback. Without permanent structural anchors in place, employees naturally drift right back to their comfortable legacy work habits. Those old routines provide social comfort. Slowly but surely, the new system gets abandoned, making the entire wildly expensive rollout completely useless. This is exactly why change management isn't just HR fluff. It is an absolute bottom-line necessity. So, how do we actually prevent this? Well, long-term stability isn't achieved by just hoping for the best. The real solution is to actively embed the new processes directly into daily operational workflows, technology frameworks, and performance evaluation metrics. Notice how all the major frameworks we talked about address this exact ultimate goal of permanent stabilization? Lewin has his freeze phase, Cotter has step 8, anchor to culture, and ADCAR concludes with reinforcement. They all absolutely recognize that to prevent the snapback, the change has to become deeply institutionalized. Which leaves us with one final, absolutely crucial question to ponder. When you initiate a rollout, are you just changing technology or are you actually changing culture? True implementation requires the proactive management of human resistance. Because the success of an AI initiative isn't measured by technical splendor, it's measured by human adoption. Keep these frameworks in mind for your next big rollout, because leading people through change, that is the real marker of a transformational leader. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.